Game one of rugby's greatest rivalry between the All Blacks and the Springboks kicks off on Saturday. We're only a few days away. It's time to get excited. Look, I half expected to be talking about a Springbok team that was going to be named today by Razzie, but Razzie has held off. He's not going to announce his Springbok team until Thursday. So he's broken with most like his recent tradition of going early. Who knows what that's for? Do the Springboks have some injury worries? Are they worried about, or not worried, but are they looking towards the All Blacks and their injury concerns? Because look, if you're missing some guys like DMAC and Jordan and potentially Roygaard, that changes things. Like, let's be honest, that will change the way the All Blacks play. So in turn, you'd think that changes the way the Springboks would play. Now, the Springboks are world champions, and we know that they focus on themselves, they focus on their team, they play their game. They're not looking to play the All Blacks game. That's for the All Blacks to worry about. So, you know, picking their team based off of what the All Blacks are going to do might be a little bit arrogant to think, but you know, these are high stakes games, and Razzie looking for every advantage you can get, and why not hold out your team naming till later in the week when you get a little bit more clarity around potential, you know, goings on in that All Black squad as well. But on that note, guys, let's have a look at the injury list for the All Blacks. It's growing daily. Just yesterday, we had the news that Ollie Norris is another one who is ruled out for the tour. He is going to be going home to New Zealand. And Noah Hotham's been called up because there is a slight concern about Cortez Ratama. They are assessing his injury, so he has been called into the squad as cover. Now, I've seen a couple of takes that maybe this is less about Cortez Ratama and maybe more about the seriousness of Roygaard and his injury niggles. I think that's a bit of bullshit, to be honest, because I think if you look at the fixtures and you know that the All Blacks have the Lions game coming up 3 days after the first test, if you've got an injury worry with Ratama and you're playing Roygaard and Preston in that first game, you do not want your only fit nines to be going again 3 days after. So they would have no one. So it makes total sense that they're calling up Hotham. So let's hope it's just that. It makes a lot of sense that it would just be that. And dear God, please let it just be that. Right, so let's have a look at this injury list or squad movements. Okay, so just recapping the injuries, the long-term injuries here: George Bell, Billy Proctor, and Ollie Norris. They're all have gone home, or in Ollie Norris's case, they are going home. Yeah, Cortez Ratama is the latest to have a niggle, and Xavier Numia. So both come out of the Bulls game. Cortez, he is being assessed for a knee injury or a leg injury, and they've called up Noah Hotham. I guess as a precaution, but I guess they're a little bit worried. Even if he is out for a week or maybe a little bit longer, they won't have enough fit nines for that Lions game, which comes around just 3 days after the first All Black test. Xavier Numia also, I believe, I don't know what the injury is, but I did hear that there might be something around him, and after that came out of the Bulls game. So he might be questionable, but so far nothing has been confirmed. And then you got that little box there with Will Jordan, Cam Roygaard, and Damian McKenzie. This is the sweaty box. This is the one that everyone's sweating on. Will Jordan supposedly has trained at the back end of last week, so you would assume that he's ready to go. Cam Roygaard, we don't know. No one, there's been no clear indication of whether he's good to go. I guess we'll find out in the next day or two from maybe Rennie in the presses. David McKenzie started off as a nothing burger, but it has since morphed into a something burger. It is apparently there is quite a lot of concern around whether he will be ready to go by the first test. So yeah, and the big thing around this is, Dave Rennie picks his team on a Monday. He tells the team who is on that team sheet and who's going to be a part of that 23. So I think I heard somewhere that if you don't train in the week, or is that the Springboks? I don't know. Anyway, you would imagine that if the players are in doubt at this point, that they're probably not playing. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, the replacements that have been called in: Bradley Slater. We already saw him in action against the Sharks. Was it? No. Yeah. Maybe. I can't remember. Richie Mwanga, we know he's either there or he is on his way. Noah Hotham probably around the corner is going to be arriving. And the most recent one, Sola Mau, who has been called in as a replacement to Ollie Norris. So, yeah, another young upcoming prop from the Highlanders. Nice to see Rennie, you know, going with outside the box here instead of tried and tested. And then recovered there, we have Cody Taylor and Tyrell Lomax, obviously both recovered from their respective injuries to take on the Bulls, and they put in a shift, gave the All Black scrum, some life. So all's looking good on that front, but still plenty of concern around a few players that should be there or thereabouts in regards to this first All Black 23. So yeah, watch this space. Righty, so let's get into the team that I have chosen. This is the team that I've chosen based on who I think Rennie will pick. It's not a team that I want to see, but it's a team that I think Rennie would want to select for that first test. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, I will go through these and I will offer up my personal preference on some of these positions because there are one or two changes that I would make. But overall, it's actually fairly close to a team that I would like to see. But let's start in the front row. So Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, and Tyrell Lomax. I resisted putting Lomax on the bench with his Hurricanes buddies. I would love the idea of seeing Lomax come on in the second half with Omua and Numia. But I've kept him there with Cody Taylor. I thought they both had a really good partnership on the weekend against the Bulls, and just were obviously Numia was a part of that. But I really liked the way that they bounced back from their injuries and got that scrum humming again. The scrum was under a bit of pressure, and a lot of people were talking about it being a very weak point, but we saw some signs of life against the Bulls. So I'm keeping those two together along with Ethan de Groot, who is the first choice loosehead in the team, in my opinion. Moving into the locks, I have gone with Patrick Tuipulotu and Fabian Holland. Tuipulotu came off against the Bulls pretty early on, so I think it's a clear indication. I mean, he's definitely a part of this 23, and if the All Blacks are not going to carry an extra lock on the bench, then obviously Tuipulotu is going to be starting. And I've also got Holland in there as well. He's just he's a workhorse, right? And he's too much of he's just so good in the line out and all around the park. I just think you just can't leave him out of this team. I've already said it. He's one of the first names on this list, in my opinion. So I've got them two together, and I've got Tupuvai at 6. Again, I think he is the first choice 6 for Dave Rennie. Luke Jacobson, 7 and 8. I think that back row just picks itself at the moment. I really do. These are the guys that Rennie loves, and they will be starting. The backline largely picks itself too. 9, 10, 12, and 13 is as you would expect. Cam Roigard, Ruben Love, Geordie Barrett, Quintu Paia. There's a little bit of doubt of injuries. I think Cam Roigard's all right, but around the back three, Morby, Will Jordan, and Damien McKenzie, there is a little bit of a question mark around Will Jordan and Damien McKenzie. Now, the latest that I've heard, and probably all of you have heard, is Will Jordan seems to have trained last week at the end of the week. So he is looking good to take his spot. But Damien McKenzie, who at first we were told it wasn't a big deal and he would be fit for the first game, but now we're told that it might be touch and go whether he is ready to go. And I think there is some genuine concern over Damien McKenzie. So that throws up a bit of a curveball, and I'm not really going to get into what that means because it could mean a host of things, and it could really mean that Beauden Barrett starts at 15, but I don't want to have a meltdown over that, so I'm going to leave it alone. So let's move into the bench because I think this is where things get a bit interesting. As I mentioned earlier, Safa Mua, Fletcher Newell, and Xavier Numia are my front row replacements. I've got Peter Lakai there as the replacement, like loose forward replacement, and there is no backup lock. So, yeah. Let me know what you think about that, because I've got Blackadder and Larkai on the bench. Obviously, two loose forwards. I think Blackadder can cover 6, 7, 8. I mean, so can Larkai really. So I think obviously, if you want to bring in a lock like a Darry or something, you've got to lose one of those guys, or you go a 6-2 split. But I don't think they're going to do a 6-2 split on this game. I really like. Well, I like Ethan Blackadder. Now, I've seen a lot of people and have been talking about Anton Segner, and I've seen a lot of people saying he has to be a part of this team. And the only thing I would say to that is Rennie has had this team picked for a little bit. Like we've heard it time and time again. He's picked this team a month or two ago. I think he picked his team before the Bulls game even, and yes, Segner played well, and yes, Rennie could have made an adjustment there to get him included, but I don't think he has. I think we know that we're going to see a lot of these guys in all four tests, right? We're going to see Segner at some point. We will see Darry at some point. We will see Satiti at some point, and Blackadder and all these guys. But I just think if Rennie has selected this team before, weeks before, then I think we're going to see someone like Blackadder, because you look at that Stormers game, how influential Blackadder was when he came on. He changed, like he really, really made an impact. He made some big, big tackles, and even in that Sharks game, he was really a few noticeable carries. And I was like, whoa, like I haven't seen that from Blackadder in a while. Yeah, he looked like an absolute dog out there, like just hunting that guys down, and I love that. And I just think him and Jacobson just form an awesome duo, like to sub one off and bring on the other. It's just, yeah, I think that's what Rennie's going to go with. I haven't heard him mention once, to be honest, of all the teams that I've seen selected from different people on Twitter, on podcasts or whatever. I have not seen Blackadder mentioned, but I think he makes perfect sense for this team. So that's why I've got him in there. Number 9, I've got Cole Preston. I think, well, there's an injury cloud over Ratimer now anyway, but I still think Preston got the jump on him with that performance against the Sharks. Although in saying that, Rennie's going to select who he's going to select, right? He's got guys that he prefers. And so that was 50-50, but for me, I prefer to have Preston in there anyway. And then the last two spots, I've got Rico and Fehi Finianofo. Now, I thought Rico's done really well the past few games, and I think he's earned a shot back in that test team to show us that he's a test player. So I'm not ready to confirm and to say like I think he's back at his best. I just think he deserves a chance. I didn't necessarily think it should be this game, but I think it makes sense given his performance at 13 on the weekend that he comes into this team so that he can cover 13 plus wing. And then you've still got a bit of X factor there with Fehi. He's not going to give you everything that you lost through with Clark getting injured, but he does give you that, that strong carry, the ability to beat the tackler, and he's got X factor. He's got a nose for the try line, and that's what we need. So that's why I've gone for those two. I also didn't go with ALB purely because ALB's the only difference between ALB and Rico is ALB covers 12 as well as 13. We don't need cover at 12. Geordie Barrett's going to play all game, right? And if he doesn't, then Quintu Plyer will. So I don't think we need a backup 12. So that's why I've gone with Rico Ioane. And yeah, I think that's fairly close to what Rennie would pick. So yeah, that's my pick for this weekend for the first test, provided that everyone's fit. Let me know your thoughts, guys. As I said, I love seeing people's teams. I find them super interesting. Like I was listening to some of the podcasts as well, and just seeing like people that you are very knowledgeable about the All Blacks. And I'll the guys on Rugby Direct Pod, Liam Napier and Elliot Smith, I think, and then you've got Tony Johnson, who was on the DSPN. They both have totally different teams, and it's just cool. It's cool to see and to hear why they think that, and you're just like, yeah, I just find it interesting that and exciting that we are debating these positions. It's not clear cut. Imagine being a Springbok fan. They got 50 players that they could make the 15. So, but still, it's nice to see a bit of depth and to see that there's genuine competition and like to see the way they all fit into a game plan that Rennie wants to play. I just find it really fascinating. So Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what your choices would be. Yeah, really interested to debate this with you guys. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. I'm really trying to grow the channel. Thank you for watching, and yeah, take it easy, guys. We will wait for the team naming on Thursday, and yeah, we'll crack on with a pre-game video, and then straight into the big day on Saturday. Take it easy, guys.